This is a 4AGE, probably one of the most famous engines to come out of Japan. And this one is very sad. So in this episode of Nugget Project, we're going to strip it down and find out why it's sad. G'day guys and welcome back. So for those of you just joining us, this is our 4AGE out of our AW11 MR2. As far as we can tell, this engine hasn't been started in over 20 years. So we have no idea what condition it's in, how good it is, and today we're going to find out. Anyway, before we start, I'm going to do a couple of quick shout outs. First of all, my mate Denny rocked up with this the other day. So this is a repair manual for a 88 MR2 AW11, which is the Mark 1B. It's a later model, but still a lot of the same information. He printed this entire thing off the online PDF, and it is chunky. Look at the fatness of that. So thank you, Denny. That is amazing. It will definitely come in handy. Another shout out to my mate Brad, who just went to World Time Attack and brought me back one of the World Time Attack books, which is very cool. It's got some cool stuff in there, so I'm very keen to have a look through that. I didn't get to make it this year, so thanks, Brad. That's very cool. And lastly, I'll give a shout out to the guys at Rode Microphones. So they're not a sponsor. They haven't given me anything for free, but I'm wearing one now. I use the Rode wireless system. So I've got a transmitter in my pocket there. So I use the Rode Wireless Go 2 system for work, for Street Machine, and for doing this most of the time. And they've just been awesome. And lately I've had trouble with my lavalier mics, or lapel mics, whatever you want to call them. And I hit them up and said, guys, I've got 3 busted mics here. They didn't even question it. They sent me out 3 of the brand new ones. These are the second edition ones, and they are freaking awesome. So just a quick shout out to Rode. Thank you so much for being a wicked Aussie company and looking after small Aussie businesses like me. Right, there we go. Anyway, so yes, we've got the engine out of the car. We've taken the gearbox off. And one other thing I want to show you is this. If you're stripping an engine, especially if you're not putting it together straight away, back together straight away or something, you're gonna forget where all the nuts and bolts go. Get yourself some sandwich bags and a marker and mark out where all the nuts and bolts go. So I've got here, front engine mount to chassis. So I know exactly, when I go through this box, I find my front engine mount, there is the bolts that go in there, and I've got all sorts there. So I've got all the ones for the rear brakes, exhaust mounts, gearbox mounts, flex plates. I mean, I'm not even putting the flex plate back in this car, obviously, because that's an auto thing, but I've got it all marked out. So if I do give that gearbox to someone else, at least I know they're the bolts that go with it. So it is the single best thing you can do if you're stripping down a car. And it's something I do, like when I rebuilt the XL, marked everything out. I mean, some bolts are very obvious, and say like the bolts that go in the strut down here, I just put the bolts back in the strut, put the nuts back on. It's obvious where they go. But other ones where you can't put them back in the thing, just put them in a sandwich bag, get a marker, write exactly what they are, and then, I might not put this engine back in the car for another 2 years. Who knows? I mean, maybe I'll get this whole thing smashed out in 6 months. Maybe it'll be 8 years. Who knows? So, yeah, I want to remember where all that stuff goes. Anyway, hot tip, do it. So, now, it is time to pull this thing apart. It is very manky. It's obviously had a few oil leaks. I can almost guarantee this engine has never been out this car, I'd say. Yeah, it's got 132,000 on the clock. The timing belts on most of these Toyota engines with the Yamaha head are supposed to be done every 100,000. So here's hoping that timing belt's been done. I mean, doesn't matter, it's still turning. I did crank it over on the pulley and it turns over and it seems okay. So obviously the timing belt's still there. But yes, most Toyota engines, like 4AG, 1J, 2J, 3S, all of those, they all do timing belts at 100,000. So we'll pop that cover off and we'll see if the timing belt has been done. And we're gonna do some fancy time lapse on this. So I've got my time lapse rig out and we'll try and make this spectacular. And I'll talk you through everything as we're pulling it apart. So even though this was my first time working on a 4A, honestly, they're just like every other Toyota engine and probably most Japanese engines. They're very well put together. They're very basic. You can strip most Japanese engines with a 10mm, 12mm, 14, 17, 19, and a couple of screwdrivers. That's it. They're all very simple, very well put together, and easy to access all the parts. So we got the head off the engine and we got visitors.
Hello.
It's Cam from Stream Machine. What a celebrity. And Jesse's here. Hi Jesse.
Hello.
Where they've come to check out the car. What do you guys reckon?
I'm glad it's in your hands. Not many other people would probably do this, but I've seen people do worse with cars I care about less. So
Yeah. She's rough. I'll get it done. Look what they bought me. Ah, Matchbox AW11. That's so sick. I'm so stoked on that. At least I got one that works. One that doesn't have holes in it.
It has wheels on it still.
It's still got wheels on it, yeah. Anyway, we'll I'm gonna hang out with these boys for a bit and then we'll have a look at this. You see all the gross mixed in.
Has that smell. You know that smell when you pull the head off an engine?
Yeah.
You just, that old. I walked in here and thought it was degreaser, and then he said, I just pulled the head off, and that's the smell.
Old fuel too, man. It's probably 20 years old, this fuel. So it is not good. But yeah, I don't think that gas is good. It's got a weird thing going on here. I don't know what's going on with that, but anyway, pop it off. We'll spin it around and check out the big end bearings and hopefully they're all right. Alrighty, well that was a nice little visit from Ken and Jesse. Thanks guys. Thanks my Matchbox car. That's awesome. At least I have one that doesn't have holes in it and isn't rusty. Cool. Anyway, now let's have a look at this engine because there's a bit to look at. So we've made a hell of a mess, but the engine is stripped down bar the sump, so we'll flip it over in a minute and have a look. Let's grab our little Raceworks light. There it is. These things are freaking awesome. If you ever get a chance, like if you see Raceworks at a show or something, grab one of these. They are absolutely sick. Little pen light. So good. So I had a look in all the bores. I've rotated the engine around and they all look pretty good. There is a tiny bit of pitting on these barrels, like the tiniest amount. So really just a quick home hone. I'm not going to bother taking it to a machinist. I'm literally just going to give it a home hone and those bores will be perfect. Pistons look fine. They just look like dirty old pistons. Yeah, the block is filthy. She is disgusting. A lot of leaks. Pretty gross. So a couple of fun things for you non-Toyota people. This you'll see on the intake manifold, this TVIS. So TVIS stands for Toyota Variable Induction System. Yes, Japanese love their acronyms. And this is the TVIS system right here. So you can see it's got 2 ports per cylinder and it's got these butterfly valves. So what it does is it actually closes up the valves and it only allows 1 port open for low RPM. So it basically creates more velocity and yeah, better airflow at low RPM. And then when you hit, I think it's about 4,200, this actuator pops open those butterflies and gives you more airflow at higher RPM. I had the same system in my ST162 Celica, and it's great. It's funny, you sort of go up through the rev range and then when you hit that sort of 4200 or whatever it is, it goes, it gets like this deep throatier noise. It's really cool. So it's kind of like a very, very rudimental VTEC kind of thing, or variable valve timing. I mean, it doesn't change the timing of the valves obviously, but it's like that kind of feel. So yeah, cool little system, and I definitely will put that back in. Lots of rusty parts. All these pipes are pretty gross. It's everything under the exhaust manifold was pretty gross, but we'll give everything a good scrub. We'll see what's good, what's bad. These cams seem fine, which is great. All the cam caps look good. Not too much, not really any scoring or any marks, so that's good. Don't know if the alternator works. Hope it does. That'd be nice. But everything seems fine. Just needs seals and gaskets and stuff like that. So I'm going to get a VRS kit for it, which is a valve regrind set, and that basically gives you all the valves, all the seals and gaskets to rebuild the entire engine, bar the rear main seal. So we'll just grab one of those. So yeah, I'll grab a VRS kit for it and we can replace everything. Yeah, another little thing just for you guys that are interested, you would have seen we did the time lapse on this engine. Hopefully it worked. And this is how I did it. So this is my time-lapse rig. It's set up on a couple of big stands. And this thing here is the time-lapse motor. So it's made by a company called Syrup. It's a Syrup Genie. And you basically set in, I'll turn it on the screen and show you guys. There we go. And you can set basically how much. So every time it takes a photo, it moves, 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 and you can have it rotate and all sorts of stuff. It's a very cool piece of kit. So I hope you enjoyed the time lapse because yeah, I've been wanting to use that. I haven't used it in a while. It's a very cool bit of kit. So yeah, that's how I did it. And I've got one of my old cameras up there, and then we've got a nice big panel light. So hopefully it looked good. All right, while we're looking at stuff, here's the cylinder head. Looks all right. It's a little bit rusty on that cylinder. Might have been, yeah, I don't know. Maybe the plug was left out of it or something, but yeah, the head looks fine. It's just gonna need a clean up. All the valves sort of look like they're sitting straight. I might have to do a test on them, but we'll take them out when we do the valve stem seals anyway, so I'll roll them across the bench and make sure they're not wonky or anything. But yeah, we'll give this all a really good scrub. Should look pretty banger. Here's a question for you Toyota nerds and MR2 nerds. What is this sensor? So it's just open air. I did crack the plastic bit off it. I feel like it's an air temperature sensor. Yeah, I'm not too sure, but like, yeah, it plugs in, but it doesn't go anywhere. It just sits in open air. So I feel like it's an ambient air temperature sensor. Maybe it's to do with the fact that this is a Japanese model and it uses a MAP sensor instead of a MAF. So it uses, yeah, it's not an airflow sensor. So maybe this is ambient air temperature. I don't know. If you can let me know what it is, I'd be interested to know. All right, gang, well, we'll flip this engine. I'll set up another time lapse. We'll flip this engine and we'll have a look at the bottom end, see what the main bearings all look like on this and the big end bearings. Hopefully they're okay. If that's okay, I'm basically gonna scrub it all. And then yeah, we'll get the head. We might give the head a bit of a skim, just make sure it's all happy. And then yeah, we'll reassemble it. And then basically that'll be the engine I can put aside. Engine is done. And once the chassis is all done and painted and rust repaired and all that, I can pop that back in with our new manual gearbox when I find one. But yeah, it'd be nice to have the engine just all wrapped up, all sitting there, ready to go. Anyway, let's flip it over and see what this bottom end looks like. Fingers crossed. Yuckies. Yuckies. Gross. Okay, so I've popped off one of the main caps and it looks pretty good. Look, it's got a little bit of screwing in there, but nothing you wouldn't see out of an engine this old. I'm pretty happy with that, and the journal looks amazing, looks really nice. Unfortunately, I popped off one of the big end bearings and the journal looks incredible, but the bearing does not look great. That looks like it's pretty average. It kind of almost looks like damage from sitting there for so long, because as I said, this possibly hasn't turned over in 20 years, so I don't know, but I'm not happy with that. I mean, you let me know what you think, guys, but personally, I'm not overly stoked with that, so I think we'll throw some big end bearings in this thing. Look, the mains look pretty good, so I'll probably pop the rest off and have a look and suss it out, but I'm guessing the mains are probably gonna be all right, but yeah, those big ends, they look a bit average. You guys can see that, but yeah, I'm happy with that. Couple of little marks, but that is pretty bloody good for a 40-year-old engine. Bloody hell, that one looks brand new. All right, cool. So, main caps look good. That's great. We'll just do them up a little bit and then rotate this crank and have a look at a couple of the big end bearings. First one wasn't great. I'll check out the others. But I mean, it's really no point because if I'm going to replace one, I'm going to replace them all. But the mains look good, so that is great news. Yeah, that one looks the same. So, big end bearings are not amazing. Once again, Crank looks fantastic. So yeah, those big end bearings are just a bit how you going. We'll see if we can get that on camera for you. Yeah, you see that? Just a bit funky. It's not what I want. Cool. So, where do we go from here? This is interesting for me, guys. Like, I know a lot of you have probably torn apart much older engines, but for me, this is the oldest engine I've pulled apart. And you kind of go, oh, it's a modern Japanese engine. Well, it's, as I said, it's 40 years old. I mean, the car's 39 years old. This engine was probably built around the same time, if not a year earlier. So yeah, it's a 40-year-old engine. I can guarantee that this has not been pulled apart since then. So this was sealed in a factory 40 years ago, and I've just pulled it apart for the first time. I can't see any evidence that someone else has been in this engine. So yeah, that's old. That's old for me, okay? So look, for the age, I think it's pretty good. Like, those bearings look good, the bores look good. I'm guessing the rings are gonna be pretty good. I wanna give this all a really good scrub out. So probably what I'll do is I will drop the rods and pistons out, lay them on the table. Obviously I've got to, change the big end bearings. So I'll take the rods and pistons out, we'll do the big end bearings, I'll take the crank out, I'll give all this block a good scrub down, and then yeah, I'll probably paint it and stuff like that. But you know, like, while we're this far in, let's scrub it all out, we'll give it a good bath, put it all back together nice and fresh. So yeah, exciting times. One thing I must say for this engine and the whole car is, and yes, I am a Toyota fanboy, but their fasteners and their hardware is so good. Like, everything, I haven't had a broken bolt, nothing's stripped, no heads are stripped. They're just good quality fasteners, good quality bolts. Everything that's like, these bolts haven't been touched in 40 years, and especially the stuff around the exhaust manifold and under the manifold is rusty and everything. Got a spanner on it, bang, straight undone, no problem. So look, due credit, they built things right back then. You know, like, I don't know what Toyota and Honda and Nissan and everything are doing now, but when they built this car, they built it right, and it's very well made. So very cool stuff. Okay, well, that's kind of our teardown video of the engine. Hope you kind of enjoyed seeing the inside of this thing, and I don't think it's bad. I think it's pretty good. You know, we could be in a much worse situation. I think we're doing okay here. So yeah, I wanted to do this early because I need to obviously save up on all the parts, because, you know, timing belt tensioners, every seal and gasket. We're gonna now do big end bearings. I want to replace a lot of the sensors that look pretty bad. I think a lot of the clips for the sensors are gonna need replacing too. So we're gonna have to get a website, find the clips, because a lot of companies do reproduction clips for all the electrical connectors. Buy all that, and then we'll do a video on reassembling this puppy all fresh, new, mwah. And we'll put it aside, we'll wrap it up, and then once the chassis is finished and painted, then we can bolt that to our manual gearbox and put it in, and then it's all the exciting stuff of building this car back up. So yeah, very cool stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I know all YouTubers say that, but it really does help us, and I would love to get, look, my ultimate goal for this channel, before I throw it all in, would be to get a YouTube award, which is 100,000 subscribers. I honestly don't think I'll get there. I'm at 5,150 or whatever it is, which is amazing. But if I get one of those plaques to the wall, that would be a nice achievement. I'm gonna build this car regardless of whether it's on YouTube or not. But, you know, if you guys follow along and enjoy it, give us a subscribe and a like and all that stuff, and share it, and let's help grow this channel. Cool. Thanks, gang. We'll see you in the next video.